Everything, you happy with everything?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, this is all good. Except for the ideas, everything's perfect. This time I'm determined. You're starting. I've started the last couple, and I've been brave, but you're starting. Go for it.
I thought I'd been starting a lot lately. Well, I don't mind anyway. I don't care who goes first. I'll go first.
All right.
I'm going to go with 100 things to hear before you die.
100 things to hear.
Because like podcast is obviously an audio format, so I'm playing on that advantage and making this all about interesting things you can hear around the world.
No, this is good.
Our intrepid host or hosts ideally would travel to these places and record sound there, so you could hear. I don't actually know what the 100 things are. Niagara Falls, splitting ice at a glacier in Antarctica, the Vienna Boys Choir, the call of a caribou at dawn. I don't necessarily know what the 100 things are yet, but they would be interesting sounds from around the world. I did think inside the Sistine Chapel, the silent reflective beauty of the Sistine Chapel, but the only sound you actually hear in the Sistine Chapel are people's cameras and security guards telling them to turn their cameras off, but those kind of things.
When you first said the idea, I'm thinking, okay, the second guitar solo from Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd.
Sorry, man, it's not going to be a music podcast. I knew you'd think that. It's not going to be like 100 different gigs.
Right.
I don't mind having a little bit of music in there. Like I said, like the Vienna Boys Choir or violin solo in the Sydney Opera House. But I want it to be like, I want to have a variety of sounds. Natural, man-made, all sorts. But it could be generic things like, a baby's first breath and cry or something, at a birth or something. But just iconic sounds, things you should hear before you die.
It's good. It's good. So there's a lot of these books around now, isn't there? I've got one, the 1,000 albums you must listen to, and there's songs and films and those fat books that are overpriced in bookstores.
It is jumping on like the Listicle bandwagon. I'm the first to admit that. But I would hope that the strength of this podcast would be its production and the stories, and it would be like grand productions and going to amazing places. Hear the sound as Tim records the howling winds at the top of Mount Everest or something like that.
Ah, right, yeah. So you've got to think about, things that have that would ordinarily be very difficult to hear, or that you have to go and it's a unique sound.
Not only those, but I would want a nice smattering of those. I wouldn't mind a few just normal things as well. But you're right, if everything's just normal, like the sound of a blender or a fridge, I don't think that's something you need to hear before you die. But it could just be, it could be morning peak hour on Manhattan or something. So it could be something accessible.
Yeah.
But just sounds that are really memorable. I don't know, a lightning thunderstorm over Cape Town. I don't know. I don't know where you get iconic storms. I haven't got the list, unfortunately. But it would be fun making it.
So I can hear that aspect to the podcast. You've never really lived unless you've heard the winds howling through, the Arctic snow or something like that.
Yeah. You did say, you're very good at that. You did say that sufficiently pretentiously as well, so well done.
Thank you. There's a second line to that poem too. I could continue, but... But it's also, there are pleasant sounds, you know what I mean? Like there are sounds that you just love to hear. In other words, particular birds, or the sounds of magpies in the morning, or I'm thinking birds in Australia, like a kookaburra is an Australian bird. It's so quintessential. You just go, just love the sound of a kookaburra.
Or a koala call, which is not such a nice sound. Everyone thinks koalas would make a nice sound. God, they make a terrible sound.
They grunt, don't they? Yeah. People that do those sounds on movies, you remember, what are they called again? I think we've even talked about them once before.
Foley artists.
Yeah. And how they had to go out and find the sound of the lightsaber.
Yeah.
And the sound of two lightsabers crackling together. It's this fantastic sound,
Oh, you haven't lived till you've heard a lightsaber in real life. It's so much better than in the movies.
That's a great line. You thought you had me on a sandwich moment there again, didn't you?
No, it was the chair. It was Sir Alfred Chair.
Chair, that's right. It's like, oh, wow. Hang on.
All I have to do now is say, but seriously, Tim, there are lightsabers in real life. And you'd be like, oh, really? Oh.
Oh, right, okay. Obviously not in the original movies, but...
What's a sound that? What are a couple of sounds that you definitely want to hear in the show?
Oh, look, well, I've just come back from camping, so I have been... There's a couple of sounds of the bush and the Daintree and those sorts of things, and those things come to mind. Just even the sound of a campfire. A very subtle sound,
Oh, yeah,
is fantastic. There are those things. I feel like it's a bit like your idea about smells. There are things that will come to mind after a while. You don't want to talk about words or anything like that, do you? Like the way words sound. You don't want to go down that path. It's really about...
No.
What are some of yours? What are your favourite? What do you love the sound of?
I'll tell you what a cool sound is. A rocket launching is an amazing sound.
Yeah.
I haven't been to like a big proper rocket like a NASA rocket, but I did go to a rocket launch in the outback in South Australia in Woomera when they were testing a scramjet, and I was not prepared for how fast it was, but I also wasn't prepared for how loud it was. It was
really?
It was an amazing sound. A rocket launch.
Is it over? Like everyone's got earmuffs on? Is it that sort of dangerously loud sort of situation?
I don't remember if we were wearing earmuffs at Woomera. I think for Florida, you're far enough away that you don't have to do that. But
do you remember the sound in Adelaide when the Grand Prix was on?
Oh yeah, on a hot day. I was at school over in Glengarry, and you could hear the cars in the centre of town.
It was pretty awesome sound. That's one of those things you forget. Every year you forget how loud a Grand Prix is, a Formula One car, and then you can hear them all over the city.
Yeah.
They were loud, In Melbourne too, when I was there, you could just tell it was on no matter where you were.
The only thing was cooler was that when the F-18 jets came and flew over.
Yeah, that's great.
Whoa. I remember, because I used to go to the Grand Prix quite a lot, and have a ticket for the pit area and that through my dad, because my dad works in the media, as you know. So I was able to get quite a good ticket, and I remember you'd walk around amongst all the celebrities and the drivers, and there was no one cooler than the Formula One driver. They were obviously they're the main attraction, and they've got this aura around them. Mm-hmm. But every year, because Australia was quite excited about their F-18 jets, they would have this amazing F-18 flight display over the track. And then a few times the pilots would then go and land their planes over at a nearby Air Force base and then come and walk around the track and do a bit of PR for the Air Force, and they'd be wearing their pilot's uniform.
Oh, right.
And when the guys that were just flying the F-18 suddenly turned up and were walking around, suddenly the Formula One drivers didn't look so cool. It's oh yeah. Nice cars. What's it like being stuck on the ground? And these guys were like Maverick. It was
I always amaze when I watch an American, football game or something like that, which I very rarely do. But let's say the Super Bowl or something, how they always manage to time the jets with the very ending of the singing of the national anthem. So, it is impressive. It's the most anthemic song ever written. It just builds and builds and builds, and everyone's like, oh wow, it's the biggest climax ever.
Yeah.
And then three jets just fly over it. It's oh, give me a break. That's just over.
We can't even start recording a podcast within an hour window.
No, that's right. How do they manage to do that? You think, they probably do have reasonably good timing, seeing they're used in, war, battles and so forth. But
I wonder if they're just doing a few loop-de-loops in the car park, waiting for their moment, killing time.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Hang on. Is that the first verse or the second line?
Yeah.
Bit to the rockets yet? Okay, hit it. We're back. We're late. Incredible.
There must be videos of people doing the anthem in about 40 seconds before the end, the jets go flying over and ruin it. But I've only ever seen them do it just on time.
Yeah, there's nothing that puts you off your singing like an Air Force jet flying directly over your head.
It does.
So I've mentioned a couple of things from nature. This is sounds now, and you've mentioned we've talked about man-made things. So you could actually have categories. You could have 50 man-made things and 50 things that are not.
Don't complicate it, man. Don't complicate it.
I'm bringing nuance to your rough, unformed idea. I'm polishing this diamond.
I agree with having a mix, but you don't need to be that prescriptive.
Okay.
A Welsh rugby match in the stadium would be good, because apparently when all the Welsh people start singing all their songs at a rugby match, it's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah. Well, as you know, we've had the Barmy Army in Adelaide at the test we watched, and their singing is somewhat impressive. It's certainly a heck of a lot more impressive than the Australians, but singing all their crazy songs.
Do you know, if you're an American listening to this podcast, I can't think of any sentence that will make less sense than "we had the Barmy Army at the test." There is so much information missing from that sentence that I think they may as well just give up.
Army, they'd know the word army.
Go and Google it. Go and Google Barmy Army, and test is a name for a match of cricket. and cricket is a sport that we play in Australia. Oh, look, just forget about it. It's a bunch of drunk English people singing.
That's right. But singing better than Australians can sing. Yeah.
Well, they say, yeah, they're very coordinated with their singing. It is amazing. I go to a lot of soccer matches and watch a lot of soccer on TV, and people sing songs in the crowd. And I've said this before, but I'll be sitting next to my mate who's English, and suddenly at the other end, the supporters at the other end of the stadium will start singing a song all in unison and be wah, 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 wah. And then my mate will just crack up laughing or say, "Oh, I can't believe they said that." And I'm like, what did they say? Like, I can't pick it out, but English people can just pick it out as if like someone's talking to them.
Oh, right. It's like...
Even my wife, who doesn't like soccer, will be watching a soccer match on TV and she'll just start chuckling at what the crowd's singing. And I'll be like, "Can you understand that? I have no idea what they're saying." She's like, "Yeah, of course I can." After all these years, I still haven't got the ear for drunk English crowd singing.
I'll keep working at it, man. There's the other side of this, which is, I know Dave Letterman once had a series, like a top 10 things that sound cool when said by Barry White.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that something like that with James Earl Jones. So a particular word by a particular person is a unique sound. Like you would just love to hear James Earl Jones, say your name, Brady Harron.
You could definitely have one or two like famous people on it with nice voices as one of you think, 100 Things to Hear Before You Die. Barry White whispering sweet nothings in your ear.
Barry White. Yeah, I think the coolest one I remember from Barry White is Jazzercise.
Jazzercise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who has the most quintessential voice? Like if you say there were two people whose voices you had to hear before you die, unique sounds, who have the most quintessential voices then?
James L. Jones. Have to be up there.
Because of Darth Vader and...
Oh, he's just got a great voice. He's also Mufasa. Say it again.
Mufasa. Say it again. Yeah, fair call. Yeah. So... It would have been interesting to go back in time and see the moment when James L. Jones's voice broke when he was a teenager.
That's a great moment in history.
That's one of those great moments. It's like he'd just be, "Oh, Dad, I feel this was a really awkward time." And Dad pat him on the hat. "You're going to make a living out of this moment, son."
There should be like one of those memorial blue plaques on a wall or something where it happened, like a historical marker. This is the place where James L. Jones was when his voice broke. Tourists come there and have their photo taken and everything.
Just a random place on the way home from school one day.
Yeah.
I tell you, the other disappointment is I would love to see a cut of the end of Return of the Jedi where Darth Vader takes off his mask. And there James L. Jones is underneath, like with a big smile. You know how in Coming to America, he has that great big smile as the king? "Here is my son." And I just love to see Darth Vader with this great big cheesy smile. It was James L. Jones underneath all along.
It would raise a lot of questions about Luke and Leia's parentage if Darth Vader was black.
It would. But it would open up so many avenues for additional Disney-related films.
It would, yeah.
Anyway,
great voice.
Yeah, great voice.
He would probably get a few episodes of my podcast.
There could be a podcast, just James L. Jones, just saying things. Or James L. Jones presents the great 100 greatest sounds on Earth, and he goes around and actually, well, here we are. He'd be a great host.
Yeah, but he would outshine everything. It'd be like he'd go to Niagara Falls and everyone at Niagara Falls would be going, "Oh my God, what's that sound? Oh, it's amazing. It's James L. Jones."
James L. Jones. I tell you, what about a female? I tell you, I've got an idea of a quintessential. It's not so quintessential, but it's a cool voice. Is Demi Moore.
Got a husky voice.
Yeah, she has a cool voice.
I don't think that's like, world famous important. I think this is probably just leaning into your teenage years a bit more than anything, man. I'm not sure Demi Moore's going to make the show, man, but you can lobby for that if you want. That could be a special bonus episode.
All right.
That could be one for the Patreon supporters.
That's right, a bonus one.
How about before we spiral too deep into your teenage reminiscences that we move on to your idea for a podcast?
All right. We started in the Sistine Chapel and we ended up with Demi Moore.
Well, this episode has been brought to you by Casper, the sleep brand that makes expertly designed products to help you get the best rest one night at a time. Now, Casper products are cleverly designed to mimic human curves, providing supportive comfort for all kinds of bodies, maybe even your body, Tim.
Maybe. Wow. That is a unique design.
Apparently, according to the Casper people, and I have no reason to doubt them, you spend 1/3 of your life sleeping, so that should be comfortable time. Do you think you spend 1/3 of your life sleeping?
I think you're supposed to.
Yeah.
I feel like sleeping's a bit like, you know how they say drinking water, you're supposed to drink like 12 litres of water a day to be healthy, and you're supposed to get 10 hours of sleep a day, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things that you're supposed to do, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure we all do.
From my experience, drinking lots of water is not conducive to then sleeping a lot, because you have to wake up all the time.
No. That's true. Particularly as we become older men.
Well, this might be true. Now, Casper mattresses combine multiple supportive memory foams for a quality sleep surface with the right amounts of both sink and bounce. Do you prefer a bit of sink or bounce in your mattress?
No, I like a firm mattress. I like it firm.
You like them firm?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that mean you don't like sink or bounce?
That's right. That's right. Perhaps. Well, it only bounces if you bounce it. I'm sure just laying there, it doesn't naturally and spontaneously just start bouncing on you.
No, but you need a bit of sink and bounce. Like, you can't just... Otherwise, you may as well just, like, be on concrete.
I actually can sleep just about anywhere. I have a very... I'm one of those people who can just fall asleep in the car or on the ground. I often just fall asleep on the carpet or on the mat or something like that at home if it's a, lazy afternoon or something like that. So I pretty much can sleep anywhere.
Are you trying to make the worst ever ad for Casper ever?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry. Yeah,
Well,
okay.
you clearly are not one of the 20,000 reviewers who have left an average of 4.8 stars across Casper, Amazon and Google, meaning Casper is fast becoming one of the internet's favourite mattresses.
Wow.
Now, they deliver right to your door in a small, and this is their term, in a small, how do they do that, sized box. Now, Tim, I have heard Casper ads on podcasts in the past, but I did not have a Casper mattress. But I recently got one and I had it delivered. And I think I'd heard so many of these ads, I think maybe I had unrealistic expectations. And I was imagining the mattress was going to come in like a matchbox or like some USB stick sized thing. And I'd be like, oh, this is amazing. And I'd just put it in the pocket of my jeans and walk upstairs. So the box was bigger than I expected. I'm going to be honest, because I'm honest. It was amazing, though. I got a queen size mattress, and it was in a box that I could easily carry on my own, up the stairs, through doors. It really was amazing that the whole mattress comes in a box that can be delivered and carried on your own. It is impressive, but it's not like a USB stick.
And then it explodes on you, does it? Like you pull a string. And
Well, it doesn't explode. This is the situation, right? We have like a really nice spare room with this queen size bed in it. And we wanted a new mattress, so we thought we're going to give Casper a go, but it was a real trial. So we were going to put the Casper on and then compare it with the one we had on there and decide which one to keep.
Yep.
And give the other one as a gift. So this was proper, Coke, Pepsi taste test stuff here.
Yeah.
We opened our mattress, our Casper, and it was quite fun watching it like expand, because it's like all like compressed in plastic.
Yeah.
And then it expanded. It was amazing. Like it was thin, and then suddenly it was thick, but it was like proper nice, like a proper nice mattress. So we had a lie on this was my wife and I, we had a lie on the old mattress. I thought, okay, let's remember this. Pushed it off the bed, put the Casper on, and lay on that. And let's not kid anyone here. This was not a decision I was going to make. This was purely my wife's decision.
Right.
And I turned to her and I said, well, what do you say? She said the Casper won by a mile. She was like, this is brilliant. We're keeping this one. She was really, really impressed by it. She's a big fan of the memory foam, which Casper uses. And she was like, there is no greater endorsement for any product in the world than my wife saying this is really good. So we have kept the Casper and we gave away the other one. So you can't buy my wife's good opinion.
That's not very generous, is it?
What do you mean?
Like you've given the worst mattress to someone, so you've inflicted that upon them, and you've kept the great mattress for yourself. That's a bit selfish, isn't it, man?
That's a good point. We should have given the Casper mattress away because it was the nicer mattress, but we were greedy and kept it for ourselves. To be fair, I can't even believe I'm telling this story now, but the people who needed the other mattress didn't need it for sleeping purposes. They were trying to sell a house that had a bedroom in it but no bed, so they bought a really cheap bed and wanted to put a mattress on it.
Okay.
So they actually didn't care what mattress they got.
Okay, that makes sense.
We wanted the best possible mattress for sleeping, and that was 100% legit, the Casper. It was really good. When you come and stay, because this mattress is in the spare room,
Oh, yeah.
you will have the Casper experience.
Wow.
Although knowing you probably just want to sleep on the floor because you just like the concrete.
I like to sleep on a spike.
Yeah, that's right. Now, if anyone listening would like to partake in the Casper experience, here's the deal. They can get $50 off towards selected mattresses by going to casper.com/unmade, and they use the promo code unmade at checkout. Bear in mind, terms and conditions apply. And also, you can be sure of your purchase with Casper's 100-night risk-free sleep on it trial. That is casper.com/unmade, and use the promo code unmade at checkout. And give them a go. They make dog beds too, apparently.
Mine is, it's quite different. It's the idea is of the podcast, that the podcast will be called Background to This. And the idea is that the podcast, when things are going on the news and in the broader culture or on social media, and you're hearing it day after day and you vaguely know what's going on, but you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, what's the background to this? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Something's happening with a particular African country, or someone's being mentioned, one of Trump's advisors or something, and it's coming. It's like, what's the background to this? Often I'll say that to someone else, or someone will say, what's the background to this, to that issue? Or it could be background to this or background to that.
Yeah.
And this podcast gives you an overview of the background in really simple terms, just explaining quickly, the background to this is this, X, Y, and Z.
You're right, because the grown-up news is very often quite guilty of just assuming that we already know everything, or we know, who all the different tribes are, or who all the different protagonists are. But that's very often not the case, and it's also a bit embarrassing to admit sometimes. So I think people would quite like that.
It's not like the news every night can say, okay, you may have missed it yesterday, however, Donald Trump said this. And now today, this happened. You know what I mean? Like they can't be forever giving you the background. They have to assume. No. Because it would be so pejorative to everyone else who's already knows what's going on.
There's a children's program in the UK that run by the BBC called Newsround, which is like news for kids.
Oh, yeah.
They very often put together things like that. They put together little kind of, I won't call them dummies guides, but they're like dummies guides to the big news story, and within 2 or 3 minutes you're completely across it. And I know adults who work in the news industry who sometimes just say, hang on, what's going on here? And they go to the Newsround site and watch the summary that's been put together for kids, and they're like, that's really useful. So there is definitely a usefulness to your idea. It sounds pretty serious, and can't think of many jokes to make about it, but
James L. Jones is going to be on it, man.
Yeah, James L. Jones. Yeah. Background to this, presented by James L. Jones and Demi Moore.
In a sense, I was thinking it's almost like an audio Wikipedia. Not quite, but it's a little bit like that.
Do you see it as being something one would listen to just for like the fun of it, or is it something you just go to when you need it, like the YouTube video about how to do a bow tie? Is it something you would listen to every episode just because it's entertaining in its own right, or is it just something is it like a screwdriver? You'd use it when you need it.
I was thinking about whether it was going to be a quick sort of 10-minute or whether it would be longer, and I wonder if it could serve both purposes. So you could go to it knowing that there's in the first 5, they give like a 5-minute explanation right at the start. And you're, okay, got that. And that's all you might want.
Yeah.
But it could go on and then explore more interesting stuff like, okay, possible implications of this are, or if you going further back, you know what I mean? Like, so you could have like the headline at the beginning, and then you could say,
Five,
okay,
5 minutes of essentials, and then you could have like a Q&A or a chat or something.
yeah, you could, or you could even say this all began actually, if you want to go way back, 1,000 years ago when this happened, or some historical feature of when the football team first, went this way, or when the presidency was inaugurated, or something like that. And then you could have other people discussing, and you could have opinions. But then it could go, having gone back, you could go to the future. How do we think this is going to play out? Well, it could play out in 3 or 4 ways. This could happen, this could happen. But the essential thing I think people would go to get the background to this. And it could form sort of like a catch-up TV kind of thing. So you might listen to a few of them once a week to get across what's happened during the week.
One of the problems I can imagine is that some of the things that would benefit most from a background to this are sometimes in themselves quite contentious. So making a definitive factual, this is what's going on, can be really controversial in itself sometimes. Mm-hmm. So if you're saying, well, look, enough of the opinions and the controversy about what's happening in Israel. Here's the facts. Even doing that's going to really upset some people, because they'll say, no, that's not the facts. You've completely got it wrong. The facts are actually this.
Yeah.
And these are the things sometimes you most want to know the background to, because they're so complicated and nuanced. So if you're saying, here's your 5-minute background to this, I don't know where you're going to go to sometimes to have the actual unsullied, non-influenced by opinion facts. But if it could be done, I'd be there.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, no, it's all contested, isn't it? So, it's someone's coming from one perspective. But I guess that's the same for all media anyway. And so that's why we all sort of get to position where we think media outlets are coming from, if they're more left-wing or right-wing or something. You could offer two perspectives, this and that. But then, of course, one of them you say, well, you explained that one better than you explained the other one. Yeah, it's open.
Or at
to
the
that
end, you're
kind
left
of
thinking,
advice.
okay, I've heard both opinions. I still don't know what the facts are. What am I supposed to think?
Yeah, so anyway, the background to this, I think that's a pretty solid idea.
Well, you should just go ahead and make it then.
Well, maybe I will.
Right.
Background to this. It presumes, of course, you've got to know the background to everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're going to go and make it, I'm curious to find out where you're going to get this information from. But
that's right. We don't know the background to this, however.
However, I reckon these people are right.
That's right. These guys started it. So background to this. Is that a good enough name, you reckon? It's pretty good?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, what's a better name?
Well, deep background is a media term, but it means something different.
You want the opposite of that. You want a immediate or shallow background. You want the immediate background. In other words, you only want to go back a few days.
I'd like the word background. I just think to this is a bit weak. They're sort of like two weak words. So, I don't know. Maybe it is good enough. I don't know. I haven't got a better idea. I imagine it would end up with a different name after we went through the full process.
I think it would be very handy.
Yeah.
And it could be really popular. In fact, it's the sort of thing that a major news outlet should do already. They should add it as a feature.
They do, obviously. Like lots of websites and, do that. They do make little backgrounders of things at some point, like, bullet points or... But it's all right, man. It's a good idea.
All right. What do you got? What do you got next?
This episode has also been brought to you by RxBar. RxBar, which is spelled RxBar, is a whole food protein bar. These are made with 100% whole ingredients. Apparently, this mob started in 2013 when they decided to call BS on protein bars. I think we all know what BS stands for. Mm-hmm. They claimed they couldn't find a bar out there that wasn't full of artificial ingredients, fillers, preservatives, and just general BS. So they've come up with RX bars, and these come in all sorts of flavours, sweet or savoury, chocolate, fruity. They actually come in 11 different flavours. They are gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free. Tim, you've been giving the RX bars a go. They actually sent you a batch, didn't they, for you to give a go?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, have you given them the taste test?
I have. I've been eating them over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
They're good. They're good.
Tell me about it. Tell me about what you like about them.
Well, I do like the fact that they've got the quality products, and I love the fact that the products are are clearly stated on the wrapper. In other words, when I think protein bar, like I've bought some protein bars before or some different things when you need I actually love these because they're great for a snack if you can't get to lunch or something like that and you need something.
Yeah.
But you don't want to reach for a Mars bar.
Mars bars are chock full of BS.
Yeah, they are. They are. Yeah. But you don't know what's in them. It's like, oh, geez, I don't know if this is a healthy option or if this is just a no carb option that's being held together by something a bit, you don't really know with a protein. So I've never really sort of had them regularly. So I really appreciate it. It's like, oh, it's got this and this and this in it. And that's clear.
It's really big on the wrapper, isn't it, of the RxBar? It's not like hidden in fine print. Like it's almost like the whole wrapper is taken up with this huge point size print saying exactly what's in there. They'll say like 3 egg whites and 2 dates and 6 almonds. Like they're really upfront about what's in it.
And the no BS is in bold letters too, so that's very clear.
They actually got me in a bit of trouble because the RxBar people said, "Oh, we want to send some for you guys to try," and so I said, "I'll send them to Tim." And then when my wife found out, because she loves protein bars and she's obsessed with healthy food at the moment, and when I told her about them, she said, "Oh, that's great. Are we going to get some?" And I said, "Oh, they've actually been sent to Tim." So it's like she was quite disappointed. So I hope you enjoy them. And I now have to go and buy a whole batch for myself just to keep my wife happy. And I will be doing so in the following way, which is the way everyone else should. I will be getting 25% off my first order, like any Unmade podcast listener will, by going to RxBar. That's RxBar.com/unmade and entering the promo code Unmade. That's rxbar.com/unmade. Promo code Unmade. There'll be links in like the notes for this podcast, but give them a go. No BS.
No BS at all. But 2 dates, 4 cashews, 6 almonds, and 3 egg whites. Not even 3 eggs, just the egg whites. I heard a story once that egg whites are the big Hollywood popular food leading up to the Oscars.
Right.
That everyone leading up to the Oscars is trying to lose weight to look their best in a suit. And egg whites, some people live on egg whites for a week. That's a rumour I heard from Hollywood.
Well, they should just go for the RX bars.
Well, they should. They'd get 3 plus 6 almonds and 4 cashews.
And they'll get 25% off.
And they'll get 25%.
rxbar.com/unmade.
Everyone's a
use
winner.
The promo code Unmade at checkout. If you're listening, Brad Pitt.
Everyone's a winner with the RX bar, if not at the Oscars.
That's right. They'll be talking about it on the red carpet. They'll be going, "Oh, it was brilliant. I heard Tim talking about it. Chocolate sea salt."
If ever there was an event where they had too much BS, it's the Oscars. The RX bar getting you through the Oscars this year.
Like, RX bars are so anti-BS. If you took one near the Oscar ceremony, it would like be pushed away like 2 north poles of a magnet.
I'll tell you another reason it's a good idea. This is for anyone from Hollywood listening.
Yeah.
That's a long ceremony to sit through.
True.
Why not have a couple of RX bars in the pocket? One would be like a meal.
Yeah.
Do they eat during the Oscars? They don't have a dinner or anything, do they? Like the Golden Globes, they have a dinner. They're sitting there eating around tables, it seems. But you go to the Oscars, you have to eat beforehand.
Maybe they do just like have like 2 or 3 RX bars under every chair. Like,
That'd be wise.
that'd be good marketing. Like if they just cut to like, and the nominees are, and they like cut to Tom Hanks and he's stuffing an RX bar in his mouth.
That would be unbelievable marketing. That would be good.
My second idea is really out there. It's very much in the spirit of the Unmade podcast because this is pretty unmade. My next idea is, it's more of a piece of performance art, life performance art, than it is an actual podcast.
Wow.
Because my idea is called Coming Soon. And the idea would be to spend the life of the project, which could be the rest of our lives or a few years or however long it is, hyping up and talking about and building expectation and having events and things like that for a podcast that we're going to make soon that we never make.
Isn't that what we're doing already, man?
No, because we are actually making a podcast that we put out. It would be like a thing that never gets released,
Right.
but like you'd throw launch parties and you'd give interviews about it, and you would never really give much information about what this alleged podcast is going to be about. It would just be like Tim and Brady's new podcast is coming soon. Come to the launch party on Friday night for free cocktails, and you'd like make posters and logos and like have advertising campaigns, and like you'd constantly be building hype forever for something that is never actually happens, and it's just always it just always remains in this limbo of coming soon. And yet we're really excited about it, and are trying to, and we're saying, start following our Twitter and join the Facebook page and like get on board and join the email list so you get all the notifications, but you never actually do anything of any actual substance. That's almost like the challenge, is to never actually reveal a single shred of anything that counts as substance. It's only hype and expectation and promotion.
So how much of this happens on the podcast? It sounds like it all happens around the podcast.
No, you're not understanding. You're not understanding. There is no podcast.
Oh, okay.
This is not a podcast. It's never released. It's never released. It's always coming soon.
So you're, but you've, yeah, okay. I like this. So you're forever. You can see how many people can buy into something that never actually comes.
I mean, in my head, if you were to actually do this, like to do this project, this artwork, it wouldn't be a deception. I don't think the idea would be to trick people. Some people who encounter it tangentially might accidentally be tricked, but it's not to pull a fraud. It's more a commentary on hype and promotion and media and like the world we live in. So I'm not trying to make people feel stupid or trick people, but it is supposed to be entertaining. You would look at the way things around the world are, like we would have like, how does a film or any new thing get hyped before it comes out? And then we would kind of riff off that. So you could have, like say, when those rubber bands around your wrist became really popular for a while for like, cancer awareness or, and then they just sort of became everything, like everything awareness had a different colored band. So we would release like a rubber wristband for our podcast that was, black and yellow striped with red polka dots. That's the awareness of our podcast wristband. We'd release like, thousands of them. And you would always be trying to up yourself. So you'd have like, skywriting or a banner behind a plane, coming soon, Tim and Brady's podcast.
So you would actually name it as a podcast. It's not like you're trying to hype an intangible object. You'd say it is a podcast. It's going to be this.
Well, it is a podcast because our show here is talking about podcasts. So I've just made it.
Yeah.
So I've made the thing that's coming soon a podcast just for the sake of it. Ideally, you wouldn't name it, but I think that would always become too difficult to hype something that hasn't even got like an identity. So. But it wouldn't have a name. It would be as yet unnamed, coming soon, our as yet unnamed podcast or something like that. But I don't know. The reason I say Tim and Brady's podcast, you almost need people to center it on, which is why I keep saying Tim and Brady's podcast, because you can't just say coming. Well, maybe you could just say coming soon, and there's just this whole
coming soon,
this whole cult of coming soon, and you don't even know what the thing coming soon is. But
it's the ultimate PR achievement to hype something that doesn't actually exist, that you essentially create hype around hype. But there is an idea in it.
Yeah.
I've experienced something, a very brief glimpse of this once, where there was a big store, a big sort of factory area outlet, near a place where I used to live near Melbourne, and it just said Anaconda in big orange letters, and I had no idea what it was. And so I didn't know if it was actually going to be like a big play den, you know what I mean? Or a big... like it was a new nightclub, or whether it was going to be a retail store. But that was what it turned out it was. It's like a camping gear sort of store, quite ordinary.
Yeah.
But the way they just had the sign there for so long, you didn't know what it was going to be, but it looked like it could be an entertainment outlet or a fun city, for kids with games. I don't know. But you know what I mean? It did create this sense of buzz. Every day I'd look and go, what is that thing? What is that thing? But you're talking about a massive scale.
Do you remember that Simpsons episode? It's frustrating me that I can't remember the name. You might remember, where they start promoting and hyping this TV show that's coming soon, and they don't tell you anything about it except the name.
Yeah.
And the kids get into an absolute frenzy about it, and they don't know anything. They just keep seeing this name flashed up on the screen for a few seconds at them, and they're like...
I do remember that. And then it's a real disappointment. Is that right, when it comes on?
I think it's good.
Is it?
I think for a while it's good. I have to find out what it is.
No doubt
now.
people will tell us what the name of it is.
Hang on a second. I'm going to tweet and see if anyone can tell me. I'm saying, what is the Simpsons episode where some show is coming soon and the kids get all hyped? Anyway, so I don't know. Can you buy into this idea, do you think?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting idea. It is a bit of a social experiment.
Yeah.
And but it would be worth doing to see. It's hard to do twice.
Yeah, yeah. But you don't, what do you mean twice? I mean, this is just something you do over the space of a year or something, like, you know.
I suppose you slowly build.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park was hyped up a fair bit.
Yeah. It's always things with really teasy movie trailers, isn't it?
I remember your dad telling me, because your dad reviewed movies for the newspaper, and I remember he saw Jurassic Park first, and then I remember asking him when we're going to see some other movie, like a week or so beforehand or something, is it as good as the hype says? And he said, turned to me in a serious voice, and he said, everything you've seen and heard times by about 10. And I was like, wow. Your dad's not, given to understatement.
I've had some replies to what that show was. It was called Gabbo.
Gabbo, okay. Yeah.
It was a ventriloquist puppet. Gabbo. Everything was about Gabbo coming soon. So this would be like our Gabbo.
Yeah.
I would enjoy doing. I don't think it would work. It would be a total waste of time. But I would really enjoy doing it. I would enjoy the process of sitting around and coming up with hype and ideas and promotional ideas and, like, how can you I don't know how you would fund some of these things, like, putting a billboard on the moon or something, but I do like the idea of building expectation and seeing if people could become genuinely excited about something that doesn't exist.
There is a pretty famous story in rock music about the Guns N' Roses album that was like this. Guns N' Roses at the end, 1993, 94, were the biggest band in the world, just about, you know what I mean? Sort of, and then they went away and grunge was massive. And then for a long time, we didn't hear about them. And then we heard that Guns N' Roses were working on an album. And then it came out. The funny thing is they gave it a name. So it was going to be called Chinese Democracy, and which is a strange name. But anyway, so for ages, and the years went by all the way through the 90s, this album, the Guns N' Roses, are still working on Chinese Democracy. So year after year after year after year. And then finally, the rumor came out that The Offspring, another band, were going to release an album called Chinese Democracy, You Snooze, You Lose. It became so legendary. The album finally came out, like 8 or 9 years after it was promised. But that was one of those things. Will it ever come out? And it finally came out, and yeah, and it wasn't that particularly great. So
for all those Simpsons fans who I drove crazy, I am aware now. Gabbo was actually a rival for Krusty the Clown, and results in Krusty getting cancelled even, I think. So
oh right.
Yeah, because it was a ventriloquist and a puppet.
Does it become another one of those episodes where Bart and Lisa help out Krusty to get back on his feet again?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because they turn on Gabbo, don't they? I think. I don't know. I don't want to go too deep and upset all the Simpsons fans. I could just make up a storyline and Simpsons fans will be ripping their hair out, but
please tweet Brady corrections.
That would be a cool podcast where you pick some topic that people are really, really into and make a podcast that says it's a real, like, expertise on that show and just gets everything wrong all the time and drives people crazy.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. It is frustrating when you look up something on something you're interested in. You think, there's a podcast about that, and you listen to it and you realise that the people don't know that much about the particular topic, and you're like, that's frustrating. And they've come quite recently to it, and they don't know as much. But yeah, doing it purposely would be fantastic. That would be great. just subtle.
There was that guy that made that website years ago about ninjas that upset all the ninja fans because he made a website about how awesome ninjas were and all the powers they had. And it was like, it was all wrong, but he was doing it just to upset people who take, like, ninja lore really seriously.
Well, right.
And he's like, ninjas are awesome and they can do this and they can fly and they can and, like, all these people saying, you don't understand what ninjas are really about. And he was just winding them all up.
I wouldn't be upsetting ninjas. No way.
I don't think there were ninjas that were on the comment section saying, hey, you don't understand us.
Just like in their ninja gear online.
That's it. You and I could make a podcast, or a funny podcast, just taking the piss out of ninjas, and 5 days later we're found dead.
That's right.
14 ninja stars in our back.
It's probably safe to say if you're online arguing about ninjas, you're probably not a ninja. You want to be a ninja.
Who doesn't want to be a ninja?
My only experience of ninjas in terms of popular culture, I think, is
My only experience of ninjas is when I was on an undercover mission back in 2007.
I can't go into that, so I'm just... That's one of the great sentence begins. My only experience of ninjas is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And that may not be as much of a documentary.
Best start to a sentence ever, followed by the worst finish ever. My only experience of ninjas is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Coming soon. It's just it's not a podcast, it's a hype project. That may be about a podcast that's coming soon.
And it's a PR achievement. Yeah, so coming soon. So you'd actually call it coming soon in lieu of a name or something like that, or
I mean, this thing doesn't really need a name, does it? The only reason it needs a name is because because what are you going to say? If you're going to have all these like Twitter accounts and Facebook pages and Snapstagrams and all the different and like events with banners and stuff like that, something needs to be written on them. So you need to allude to what's coming soon, but as vaguely as possible, because that's like the joke. The joke is the excitement about something that has not been explained.
and you got to make it like people want to get on board with it too.
Yeah,
like they want to be part of the hype. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you want the party to be awesome. You know, this Friday night at some chic London hotel, we're gonna have our launch party, with free cocktails and a set from Harry Connick Jr.
You're aiming big here, man.
I am. Don't miss out. And like everyone's going to be there, and it's like it's the place to be. And everyone's wearing their awareness wristbands and their t-shirts, and they've got everything. You know, they follow all the social media accounts. But if you ever say to them, "What is it? You know, what's the thing?" It's like, well, it's not. I don't exactly know, but it's going to be awesome. So it's so basically it's one. It's another level of abstraction back from what the Unmade podcast is, where we just talk about podcasts that we never actually make. Here you're removing yet another element. You never actually talk about what the thing is.
I have another idea, which takes it a step further back, where you don't even do your idea. So
you just go about your life as normal.
Mm-hmm, yep. It's just... That's the idea. And
my idea is nothing.
People think you're doing nothing, but actually you're deliberately not even hyping something that doesn't exist.
It's the ultimate statement against hype.
That's public art.
Maybe everyone in the world is doing that piece of art installation with their life except you, and you don't realise it, and they're just all doing it around you as like a statement, and they're all going to bed laughing at you because you don't realise that that's what they're all doing.
It is getting a bit weird, but that's great. Yeah. All
right.
And I resisted the segue into another story, seeing you mentioned Harry Connick Jr. as well. I'll file that one away for another time.
No. I knew I was opening a can of worms when I mentioned another 80s, 90s celebrity.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so once again, I'll resist telling that story. I'll keep that in the bag. Look, to be really honest, Brady, I don't know.
You have to have one.
I know I have to have one.
Yeah, you've got a list, haven't you?
I do, but it's not very good. Like over several pages.
Well, read the fifth one on the list. I'm arbitrarily saying I want to hear the fifth one on the list as the list stands at the moment. Fifth from the top on the first page.
Okay.
So what's that? You're not allowed to edit. You just have to say what it is now.
It says, click your shoes, travel.
All right.
I bet you wish you'd said the fourth one, don't you?
Click your shoes, travel. Let me see if I can guess. Is this like? Are you riffing off Dorothy here in the Wizard of Oz? And what happens? People can just go to their dream place and they click their shoes, and then we take them.
Now, remember, you chose this one off the list, okay, man? So don't get angry. You chose this particular
I'm not angry. I'm letting fate decide. You tell me what the idea is.
Okay, the idea is that it's essentially, where would I want to go in the world today?
Yeah.
And you get to go there.
If you could click your shoes like Dorothy and go be transported anywhere, where would it be? And then what, you take the person there and make a podcast about it? Or are you the person?
No, I'm the person. So it's not quite Dorothy, is it? Because she just wants to go home. But it's turning it the other way and saying, if you could go somewhere right now, where would you like to go? I know someone who, when it comes to tipping when they're doing their football tipping, right? This is a bit of background. There's background to this, right? When they're doing their football tipping, they don't know much about the football. This is Australian rules football, but it doesn't really matter.
This is the contest people have in their office where you have to say who you think's going to win all the games.
That's right. Yeah, you've got to choose, this team over that team. And all they do is they look at the two teams and the two different cities they're from, and they think, which one would I like to visit today? and they choose the winner based on, whether they want to go to that town or that town.
Okay.
And so the idea of this podcast is essentially that you would click your shoes. You get to go, okay, I would like to go to this place. And I guess that just builds up over time. But essentially the podcast then says, okay, let's go and immerse yourself in that city. So the podcast could go to the city, and if you're able to do it, and to film it. So you get a sense of the description of the sounds and the smells, but the description and the history of the city. And it's kind of like walking around exploring a particular city. And a lot of it could be recorded real time. I'm now walking down this alley and you're describing what's going on. And I'm this shop is here and I'm going in here. And oh, look, I'm sort of talking to this person now. So there could be that sort of real-time documentary. But there also could be sort of a history as well. Like, it's funny that I'm standing here because back when, London was, or Beirut or Bangkok or whatever was, first settled in so-and-so, the history says this. And so you try and give people an immersion experience into a particular location or city and it's sort of a click your shoes travel, a virtual travel in your head.
I mean, this is how I'm describing it then. It's a pretty bog standard travel show. Because like most travel shows are what you just described. You go to a place, immerse yourself, bit of history, bit of culture, bit of real time. But your gimmick or shtick is that the destinations are chosen by the whim of our presenter and the mood of our presenter, and you have a little click your shoes joke because of The Wizard of Oz.
Perhaps. I've never listened to travel podcasts, but you're telling me this sort of thing happens.
Well, it sounds like a travel TV show, so I imagine a travel podcast is. That's just how, that's how any kind of travel media, whether it's a newspaper article or a TV show or anything, works. There's no shame in that. I'm just saying, I don't think you've invented the wheel there by saying, let's do a travel show where we go to a place and tell people what it's like and throw in a bit of culture and history.
Once again, I'll remind you, you chose this particular idea.
No, I'm not. That's fine. The idea here is not that. I think you're spending too much of your time trying to explain to me what a travel review is and not enough time discussing how we can make the gimmick and the original part of this idea work. So I think that's what I want to discuss. I don't want to discuss what a travel show is. I know what a travel show is. What I want to discuss is the format. And I do like the format of click your heels and on a whim. My only thing I was wondering is whether it would be better if you had a different guest each week that you took to the place of their dreams. Because how many episodes in a row can we have Tim going to his dream place? Like, it will wear a bit thick. You can't say every week, I've always wanted to visit this place, it's my ultimate dream, because like after 3 or 4 episodes you'll be going, well, hang on a second, how many dream places have you got? I think you almost need a different guest each week who's got their dream place, and you then make their dream come true and take them there with a click of their heels. And you tell the story of the place through their experience rather than through your experience. I know it's not quite as fun for you, maybe, although you still maybe will get to go with them. But I think to sustain the idea of someone clicking their heels and going to the one place they've always wanted, you need a different person each week, because you can't. It's not credible that someone has got one place they've always wanted to go every week and it's the same person.
Yeah, no, that idea makes sense. The thing that's a bit different from what it sounds like a typical travel thing is that it's less about sort of information and those sorts of things. There's just some way of trying to immerse the person in the place in a bit more of a real time. So you actually, what can you do? And this is, help me out with this then. What can you do to help someone to feel like they're there in their head?
This is an old format. This is Michael Palin's whole second half of his career. Like he's not there saying, oh, you should stay at the Shangri-La and there's also a really good backpackers just off Smith Street. He's there saying, this is what it's like to, bang the gong and have a cup of tea in a tent. Like, he does that. Like, and to be honest, one of my problems with this idea is I hate shows like that.
Yeah,
I hate shows where I feel like I'm watching other people's holidays, because it's like, oh, good for you, I'm glad you had a nice holiday. That's not my holiday. I want to go on my holiday. So lots of people love those shows where you watch other people having amazing experiences, and I'm like, no, this is I've just spent 2 hours watching someone else do something nice, like while I sat there eating popcorn, and I could have spent that 2 hours creating something or doing something or progressing my life in some way.
I don't like watching the shows where people go there. I love watching documentaries.
I like documentaries.
But generally when you're sort of the invisible person in the documentary. So the David Attenboroughs where he's very subtly there and talking and
I like that. I just don't like watching, watch as Michael Palin has the experience of a lifetime walking across the Himalayas. I'm like, well, why do I want to sit there watching someone else have the experience of a lifetime? That's his lifetime. I like Michael Palin and I'm happy that he's having a nice life, but I don't want to waste my life sitting down watching him have a nice life.
What if that's a podcast? Brady watching Michael Palin.
Yeah, exactly.
Brady eating popcorn, watching Michael Palin have amazing adventures.
Watch another 2 hours of Brady's life ebb away as he does nothing.
Yeah. A couple of questions. First of all, do you literally eat popcorn at home? Do you make popcorn and just because you're watching a screen, you eat popcorn?
I don't even eat popcorn at the cinema. It was just a turn of phrase.
I'm quite partial to a bit of popcorn at the cinema, but I don't make it at home.
All right.
That's sorted.
Do you have sweet or savoury popcorn?
No, savoury. Yeah. I'm not a sweet tooth.
All right. After all that, all you want to know is what kind of business do I eat popcorn at home?
Well, I just picture you sitting there with popcorn all the way down the front of you. Looking at Michael Palin going, why am I watching you do this? I don't want to watch you doing this.
Well, stop picturing that because I would never do that because I would never sit and watch Michael Palin have a holiday.
It's not a bad second act to your career, is it? Being the guy who goes and makes documentaries.
I think he's a genius. Good on him. I'm really happy for him. I think he seems like a really nice man and he's got a great gig. Like, it's fantastic. I just don't want to watch it. I just don't, I want to go and walk across the Himalayas. And if I can't, well, I'd rather go and be upstairs in my office making something and being creative, and earning money towards being able to go and do my own holiday maybe one day.
Isn't that a bit like saying, well, I don't want to see Luke Skywalker fighting Darth Vader. I want to go fight Darth Vader. Why would I want to watch someone else doing something I want to do? Like, why would you ever watch anything ever? Like, rather than...
Do you know what? Sometimes I do feel a bit that way. Like, sometimes I do feel like... I feel that way about computer and video games.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a waste of time. I'm not creating. I'm just burning hours. Like, I have finite hours on Earth, and I often feel like just watching and doing something with no output at the end is a waste of time. That said, I do love sitting and watching like a really good box set and watching a really good fictional creation.
Another idea on my list is the idea wasting time.
Well, that sounds like a good one. You should save that.
Oh, you reckon?
Yeah.
All right.
Like, don't just like burn through all your ideas now. It's like just in sheer panic, you just burn through your whole list in 5 minutes. Just seeing if something sticks to the wall. Do you know what we can do instead?
What?
We can go to our patron idea section.
Yeah.
Where neither of us have to have an idea. Let's do it. So, Tim, do you know people often stop me in the street and say, I really love the Unmade podcast. How can I support you and make it possible for you to make more episodes?
What a great question.
That actually doesn't happen at all. But if it did happen, my answer would be, you should go to patreon.com/unmadefm and support the podcast.
That's a good answer too.
That's what I'd say to them.
It's a good question. It's a good answer. It's a good conversation all round.
Has it ever happened to you?
No.
No.
No, it hasn't.
No.
No. But I'm ready when it does.
And what are you going to say to them?
I'm going to say, go to Patreon. I would probably send them to our website, the unmade.fm, and then to click on the Patreon link from there.
It's not the Unmade, it's just Unmade FM, isn't it?
Unmade FM, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, you'd be no good to us.
It's a bit like your own phone number. You don't have to dial it, so you don't remember it. So
You just say to them, look, just give me $10 now and don't tell Brady.
That's right. Yeah, I just give them my bank account details. Look, I'm the ideas man. Just we have a new feature at Patreon where you can support one host or the other host.
I don't think that should happen. What we should do is each month at the end of the month when there's like, a few bucks to split amongst us on Patreon, we should have a cage fight, and whoever wins the cage fight gets the money that month. and we upload the cage fight as like extra footage on Patreon, like as patron-only footage. You can watch us cage fight for the money.
I reckon I could take you in a cage fight. I'm happy with that.
Do you think you'd beat me in a cage fight? I think you probably would.
I do. Although I think you're one of those nasty fighters where you'd pinch and do stuff like that. And that's just not becoming of a cage fight in my book.
So if my technique would be to pinch, what would be your main, like, what would be your weapon? You'd just be like a fist to the side of the head, old school, would you?
I've got quite a few ninja skills that I could draw.
From watching all those Ninja Turtle episodes.
That's right, yeah. Leonardo and Michelangelo. And
I'm frankly insulted that you think I would resort to pinching.
you are a pinch fighter. I just think it's your way of fighting. I've never seen you get in the least bit violent in like of all. So this is just a really funny image, and the only thing I can imagine you doing is just sort of pinching. Like it's just sort of.
I can't believe you've pegged me as a pinch fighter. But you don't think I could land a proper blow?
No. I don't think you've got it in you. I'm not saying physically. You're physically strong. I mean, you played cricket and you could swing a bat and play footy and all that sort of stuff.
If I was given a bat in the cage fight, I think the odds would swing wildly into my favour.
I think if we had bats in the cage fight, you would have a better drive, like you would have a better stroke.
I would look more elegant. I'd still lose, but I would do it more elegantly.
You would look more elegant, and
I'd have good technique.
Because when I'm playing cricket or you doing anything with a bat, it looks like I'm fighting a lightsaber duel. So
yeah, to be fair, when you're playing cricket, you do look like you're in a cage fight with yourself. All right, well, maybe let's now that we've besmirched Brady's cage fighting reputation by labelling him as a pincher, which I would like to point out for the record, I am not a pincher. I do think you'd win the fight because I think you'd be like a bull in a china shop. I think you'd just be like a bit snorty and just wildly swinging arms, and I wouldn't know how to deal with that.
No, it'd be strong and clean, direct, commanding.
No, you wouldn't. It wouldn't be clean. It would be messy, but it would be like, yeah, you'd be untamed.
You have a power of words, though. You'd be the sort of person who goes into a cage fight and just relies on your wits to talk your way out.
Just starts quoting Shakespeare in the hope that. So anyway, we have heard from one of our Patreon supporters. We always like to talk about a Patreon supporter each episode, and today it's a chap named James, who is a student/sailor from Leicester in England, who is studying for a degree in maritime business.
Sorry, is Leicester that town with the soccer team that came from nowhere to have the amazing season a little while ago?
That's right, Leicester City. They won the Premier League of English football 2 seasons ago.
Cool.
From 5,000 to 1 odds.
Wow.
Quite remarkable. So anyway, I don't know if James is from Leicester. He's obviously studying at the university there. James says, I tend to listen to the podcast while walking and doing chores around the house. The weirdest place I listen to the podcast is at work, while keeping watch on board of a container ship. It helps pass the time when you're in the middle of the ocean with nothing to crash into. Before I share James's idea for a podcast, I'm incredibly jealous that he gets to crisscross the world on a container ship. It is one of my dreams to cross an ocean on a container ship. And in fact, where I sit and do the podcast talking to you now, Tim, I look out over the Bristol Channel and I have seen 3 or 4 container ships go past while we've been recording. Maybe James was on one of them.
Wow, they're moving that fast.
Well, no, they're moving quite slowly, but we've been recording for a while.
Okay, no, fair enough.
Yeah. So you would think that James's idea for a podcast is going to be something brilliant recorded on a container ship, something that he alone has access to. It would be unique. It would be like nothing I've ever heard before. That is not James's idea. James's idea for a podcast is... I'm amazed how often people in these emails, by the way, say something incredible about their life and then their podcast idea is nothing to do with that and it's just some normal idea. But anyway.
People often don't think their own life is particularly interesting.
I know.
There's advice that's given. If you're going to write a book, write about what you know. And you think, oh, but what I know is so boring. You say, well, all Jane Austen did was write, half a dozen novels about, small villages and class issues, and they're the greatest literature of all time. You know what I mean? It's from someone else's perspective. It's fascinating. But
you should write a novel about watching a Michael Palin while eating popcorn at home.
that's what I know.
James's idea for a podcast is, he says, while holidaying in hostels around Europe, you get to meet some fascinating people with fascinating stories to tell. I've always thought interviewing these people and putting these together in a podcast would work. Title yet to be determined. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like the film, or the book as well, but the film The Beach, isn't it? And that all starts in a hostel with someone with an amazing story to tell.
Ah, yeah.
Things kind of escalate from there, but
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good idea. Yeah, the different stories and the experiences. There is something a little bit the same about everyone that's traveling. Like if you're listening to a story about people that are traveling, they're often excited about when they hear a story of someone who's been where they've been because they've got that in connection. But after a while, just hearing stories of people going to places could become a little bit like watching a Michael Palin documentary.
conversations in hostels do become like duels of one-upmanship about where I've been and where you've been.
Yeah.
Have you been to Thailand? Yes. Which island did you go to? Oh, I went to Koh Phi Phi. Oh, no. I went here. It's even more amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Thailand's okay, but I much prefer Cambodia. Oh, have you been to Cambodia? If you've been to Cambodia, you'd love Bhutan. And it's like, oh, for God's sake.
The status, yeah. So you've got there's always one more. So they become kind of consumable experiences, You've just got to go to that place and got to go to that place and got to go to that place. But anyway, we're talking down the idea, but in the midst of it, they're nuggets of interesting stories.
It is a good idea, and interviews in hostels I think could potentially be quite interesting if you're a good interviewer and you have a good eye or ear for people who make good subjects. You've certainly got interesting people. You've also got usually quite young extroverted people who could be quite good fodder for your podcast. So you could be on a winner there, James. I don't know if I'd listen to it. I think the key would be to make the interviews not about their travel stories and brags about where they've been and what they've done, but what their life's like when they're not traveling, or why they're traveling. Maybe something's happened in their life, and it could be a bit boring if you just interview person after person saying, "Well, I've just finished my degree and I'm having a year off before I start working," which is what most people in hostels are probably doing, but.
There is everyone has a genuine anecdote. So you could dig through and go, okay, there's that camera story, or there's the, that one where we got lost and we got locked out and we're up all night. So everyone has, one anecdote about something getting stolen or amazing. You just got to wade through to find it. But
I went on a trip with a bunch of Australian lads who were quite boisterous and had a couple of beers before we even got to Helsinki, where we went for a weekend. And we arrived at the hostel and we were getting changed to go out that night. And before we even got out, before we'd even left the hostel to go for our night out, the police had visited the hostel 3 times and we'd been warned we were going to be kicked out of the country if they came back one more time.
Oh, you're kidding.
In our first hour in the hostel. There were 1 or 2 guys in particular who were troublemakers. Caused a lot of problems. You could make a podcast series about that weekend in Helsinki with all those guys. It was amazing. So many amazing things happened. There were hospital visits. There obviously jail time was involved. It was incredible.
Oh no.
Not for me, I hasten to add. I was kind of the boring person who was just thinking, "Oh my God, this is amazing."
You, Pincher, you've been bailed. Get out.
Yes, I was. Luckily for me, Helsinki has very lax pinching laws.
There is an idea in this, and it may already exist.
Thank you, James. Thank you, James, for your idea. And most of all, thank you for supporting us on Patreon. If you would like to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/unmadefm. If you would not like to support the podcast, that's okay too. We still are glad that you're listening. If you do support us, there is a chance that we will discuss your idea here on the show. That is quite a carrot to dangle.
It couldn't be worse than my idea tonight.
That's right, yeah. In fact, I'm thinking of getting James as my new host and ditching Tim.